Welcome to my non-spoiler review for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I will probably be doing a spoiler-filled thoughts video probably tomorrow or this weekend. In the meantime, though, I want to tell you whether or not I think you should go see Sonic 3. Now, I did review Sonic 1 and 2 on the channel, and I did enjoy them. I thought they were a refreshing sort of look at video game movies, because remember, when that 2021 came out, there wasn't a lot of hope for it. When the trailers were all weird, they had ugly Sonic, and then suddenly, I went to go see it early. I actually had the first review here on YouTube up, and I was like, no, it's actually good. Can this one compete? So this movie once again features Jeff Fowler coming in to direct, and Ben Schwartz reprises his role as the Blue Blur Sonic the Hedgehog. Jim Carrey reprises his role as Dr. Robotnik, but also his grandfather, which you've seen in the trailer. Jim Carrey plays both characters, and there's a very interesting meta moment there when you see them together. Also, Colleen O'Shaughnessy once again returns as Tails. Idris Elba is Knuckles, and he's also great. Obviously a much smaller role than the previous film. And then coming into the cast to play Shadow is Keanu Reeves. And he does a great job capturing this very angry and vengeful hedgehog who wants revenge, not on Sonic, but on a crime that was committed 50 years prior. Shadow has awoken. They explain all of that in the film, and away we go with our story. Now, one thing I'll tell you right off the hop with this movie is that this movie moves very fast. They don't waste a lot of time. There's not a lot of, there's a few moments of sort of where the film kind of slows down a little bit, but it doesn't last very long. This movie has a lot in it. They crammed a lot of story into this. There's a lot of character moments that they threw in there that were good. I just feel like maybe if the movie had a few more minutes, they'd be able to kind of slow things down, but it moves at a very rapid pace. And I can tell you this, when I went to go see this movie, there were way more kids in the audience than when I went to go see 1 and 2. Now, when I went to go see 1, it was an early screening, so there are not going to be that many kids there. It's more so for, critics and things like that. The second one didn't have a lot of kids, but that could also be because, this movie's coming out during the holidays. A lot of kids are out from school. And the kids seem to have enjoyed the movie. So, obviously, if you're a parent, I think the movie, you'll like it. And if you like the first 2 movies, you'll like this one. However, it's not perfect. It does have some flaws. So I should mention that James Marsden once again comes back as Tom, and I feel like in this movie he has the least amount of screen time. They told a story that probably could have been told with a different character, but it seems like now that Sonic has Tails and Knuckles as his closest friends as part of Sonic Team, there isn't really a lot of development for Tom and Sonic. There's a very important scene in the movie with Tom. He does serve a purpose to a degree, but you can tell that they're kind of going away from the humans for this one, and that's fine because the big conflict of this film is Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, and of course Shadow. And the movie was a lot darker than the previous 2. I will say that Shadow's backstory is very dark. They try to do some lightheartedness, and I'm going to tell you this right now. Comedy is very subjective, but I feel like this was probably the least funny of the 3. I think the funniest one was probably the first one. Actually, 2 had a lot of laughs too, but this one, maybe, I don't know, but the jokes in this one just did not connect with me. There are moments where Jim Carrey tries, but it doesn't work as effectively as it did in the previous movies. And Sonic, he's still a wisecracker, but some of the stuff, it just didn't land with me. Now, there are a few jokes that do land, specifically one where they're in Japan and somebody noticed something about Tails that I thought was a great sort of little joke there. There's a few that do, but for me, a lot of them didn't land. In fact, there's a dance sequence in this movie that I thought was absolute cringe. I mean, I'm watching it and I'm just like, as I'm watching that cringy dance sequence, I'm like, this scene is what people make fun of when they make fun of bad movies. Stuff like this. I did not like that scene at all. The best part about the movie, without question, for me anyways, was the connective tissue between Sonic and his friends and how important that friendship is to him and why Shadow is in such pain and the story of Sonic and Shadow's rivalry and of course the people around them, both good and bad. What was also interesting too is, if you remember from the first couple of movies, Agent Stone being of course Robotnik's aide, you surprisingly get a little bit of a deeper look into his story, and his feelings towards Robotnik and all the things they've done. So the movie's message is really about friendship. Now, as a Sonic fan, I'm not going to go into details, but you're probably going to like the last act of the film, the final 20 to 30 minutes. Spectacular. I mean, absolutely spectacular. It's like what I said about Sonic 2, where I said that Sonic 2 is more of a Dragon Ball movie than Dragon Ball Evolution. This one's really a Dragon Ball movie, even more than that. I mean, Shadow does not mess around, man. And the battles in this movie probably rank among being the best of the entire franchise so far. But it's still not a perfect film. I do think a lot of it was rushed, and I do think that some of the comedy does not land. However, that may land with you. I'm just being very honest about what I'm saying about the movie. Like, some of you guys are probably going to say, yeah, some of the jokes didn't land for me. It was cringy. And others are going to say, well, I actually like that. And that's fine. Humor is subjective. It's just, to me, it didn't land as much as the previous two. Now, I don't want to repeat my point, so let's move past that. The music I enjoyed. The visual effects were fine. There are some things here, though, that bugged me as well when it came to not just the pseudoscience, but sort of the, I guess you could say, the science fiction aspect of this. There are devices in this universe that are, obviously Robotnik's a genius, but like, there are devices that break even the way that the world works, meaning that I know this movie's about a fictional superpowered hedgehog and his friends, but even within that universe, there's things that defy the laws of physics. There's moments where I'm like, okay, this sounds like lazy writing. There is some lazy stuff here, and to me, that I'm going to go into in the spoiler review, but I think it did hurt the film a little bit for me. I think it really did. I think they were, they did a good job with Shadow's story. That was fine. A decent job with the Robotnik story, but I felt like the sci-fi aspect, I mean, people are like surviving things that they shouldn't. Just very unusual stuff that kind of took me out of the film. It kind of does become a big cartoon in the third act. So while I did enjoy it, and while it is kind of like a wet dream for Sonic fans, to me, some people are probably going to be bugged by it, and I was one of them. Now, speaking of wet dream for Sonic fans, if you are a fan of Sonic, well, even if you're not, but if you are, you can stay for the mid-credit scene and the post-credit scene. The mid-credit scene kind of tells you where they're going next. The post-credit scene, I don't want to go into it. It's a little bit less important, but not really, depending on how you viewed the climax. So I would just stay for both because they definitely got me hyped for what's next, for sure. So, again, the movie, to me, fails a bit when it comes to the humor, but the voice acting is great. The performances are fine, and it's ultimately a fun movie that you have a good time with it. Again, there's some turn your brain off moments, especially in the third act, but and part of the second act, but it still was a good time. It was a good ride. I mean, it kind of goes down Fast and Furious territory in a couple parts. So, and there's even a Fast and Furious reference in this movie. Lots of pop culture references, too, that I enjoyed. But, yeah, I'll be back with the spoiler review tomorrow. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section below. If you're trying to avoid spoilers, I would suggest not reading that comment section. But we will be back tomorrow to discuss plots. Tomorrow or the day after to discuss the details of the plots. And I'll tell you exactly what I didn't find funny and what I did. Anyways, man, those are my thoughts. Have a good one. Take care. See you soon.